True haunted house footage and creepy encounters, real horror story. Welcome to a story no one should ever witness alone. This is a true horror journey into a house that should have remained sealed forever, a place where every shadow watches and every room remembers the living. If you feel someone beside you before this ends, don't turn to look. The darkness appreciates attention. Subscribe now, because after this, you'll want someone alive to follow you into the next nightmare. The footage they shouldn't have taken. The footage was never meant to be seen. It belonged to a group of amateur urban explorers who vanished in 2019, leaving behind only a single memory card discovered in a cracked leather backpack near a condemned property. The house, located on the edge of a quiet American neighborhood, had a reputation people whispered about but rarely explained. Neighbors kept their distance, dogs refused to walk near the rusted gate, and children dared one another to touch the splintered fence, claiming they could feel. The explorers arrived on a cold October morning, drawn by rumors of strange lights flickering in the windows at night, long after electricity had been cut. They wanted views and subscribers, hoping fear would bring popularity. They didn't believe in hauntings. They believed in content. Each carried a camera, batteries fully charged, unaware that the house fed on attention. The footage begins with them opening the gate, the metal bending with a soundless groan that wasn't captured by the camera. Shadows pooled under the porch, darker than morning light should allow. The house's broken windows reflected nothing, as if refusing to acknowledge the world around it. The explorers joked at first, but the audio didn't catch their laughter. Their mouths moved, but silence swallowed everything. Inside, the air looked heavy, visible, thick with dust and something else that made the lens blur. The walls were covered in peeling floral wallpaper, but underneath, words scratched into the wood appeared in random places. They didn't notice yet. They were too busy documenting the broken furniture, the overturned table with one leg missing, and the staircase leading up like a throat ready to swallow. In the living room, one of the explorers pointed at a framed picture still hanging perfectly straight. It showed a family of 4, but their faces had been violently scraped away, leaving only fingernail marks and pale outlines of heads. The camera zoomed in, catching the grooves of desperation etched into the glass. When they turned away, the frame tilted by itself, hanging crooked when the camera glanced back. They decided to head upstairs. Every step sent vibrations through the wood, but the explorers didn't feel them. The house was adjusting to their presence. The footage shows their shoes leaving faint, dark footprints, as if the floor was absorbing something from them. They noticed the smell next: rotting flowers, decayed memories. One explorer commented, but again, no voice recorded. At the top of the stairs, there was a long hallway with 3 doors. Only one stood open: a child's room. The wallpaper was a parade of faded circus animals with smiles too wide. A rocking horse waited in the center of the room, facing the wall. The camera moved closer, the rocking horse shivering slightly before settling still again. The explorers found a diary under a cracked bed frame. Pages were torn out, but a single entry remained: "If the house hears you, it remembers you." The ink looked wet, impossibly fresh. One explorer reached to touch it, freezing when a cold breath fogged the camera lens. The temperature dropped instantly, and the footage jostled as they backed away. They left the diary but didn't notice the horse had turned around completely, now watching the doorway. The hallway seemed longer when they stepped out, stretching into darkness where the last door once had been. They blinked, and the door returned, shut tight as if it had always been that way. The explorers argued silently, hands gesturing wildly. They tried to leave, but the staircase was gone, replaced with an endless downward tunnel of darkness. The house had changed its layout, sealing them inside its shifting bones. Panic shook the camera. They ran blindly, turning corners that shouldn't exist, every path leading to the same locked door. One explorer collapsed, clutching his chest. The camera caught his terrified expression, the realization that something inside the house was learning their fear. The wood under him pulsed once, soaking in his panic. The footage blurred sharply, then snapped back with a low vibration trembling through the audio. They found a basement door. It wasn't there before. Without thinking, they descended, stumbling into damp darkness where the floor was soft, too soft. When the camera pointed down, the ground rippled like skin. Faces pressed beneath the surface, screaming silently, reaching up with fingers that never broke through. In the corner stood a dresser with drawers partially open. Inside were personal items: a broken smartwatch, a torn college ID, a baby's shoe. Belongings from people who were never found. The explorers finally understood the truth. This house didn't just kill. It kept. Every memory, every fear, every soul. The last stable image shows them huddled together, staring into the camera as if pleading for rescue. Behind them, human shapes formed from the walls, stretching forward, mouths wide with hunger. The house was claiming them, consuming their presence, ensuring they would never be forgotten by their new home. The recording cuts abruptly. The next frames are static, then the final shot. The house from outside, perfectly still, the windows gleaming darkly. The front door closes by itself, locking the silence back inside. Authorities who reviewed the footage never released it. They said it was a cruel hoax, digital manipulation. But the backpack was real. The memory card was real. The missing explorers were real. And now, the house waits again, knowing curiosity always returns. It listens for footsteps near its gate, eager to welcome the next ones who think their cameras protect them. It remembers every visitor. It never lets go. Neighbors tell conflicting stories when asked about the place. Some insist it was once a thriving home filled with laughter until the father vanished without a trace, leaving his wife and children to lose their grip on sanity. Others deny anyone ever lived there, claiming the house simply appeared one day, already stained by sorrow and dread. A local delivery driver confessed that when he drives past after sunset, he sees shapes perched on the roof, crouching like starved animals waiting for night to deepen. He refuses to stop his truck, even when strange voices call his name from the shadows near the porch steps. There was also a rumor of one survivor, a young woman seen wandering the woods behind the property, barefoot and muttering about doors that breathe. When approached, she vanished between the trees, leaving behind footprints that led toward the house but never away from it. Investigators found nothing when they searched, except fresh scratches along the locked basement windows. People try to forget this house. They avoid speaking of it, even thinking of it for too long. But the house thrives on stories whispered with fear. Every mention gives it strength. Every curious glance becomes an invitation. It has already noticed the ones who dare to watch its footage. The explorers' final mistake wasn't entering. It was believing they could walk away unchanged. The house simply waits, patient and hungry, confident someone will always return to feed its memory. Some doors, once opened, never close again, not truly. And the house keeps the echo of every footstep, every heartbeat, every scream that dared disturb its silence. The house that remembers you. The footage did not remain hidden forever. Months after authorities locked the memory card in an evidence file marked unsolved, a clerk leaked a duplicate copy to a friend obsessed with paranormal media. That friend uploaded a short segment to an underground forum dedicated to unexplained disappearances, claiming it was proof of a house that devoured its guests. Most dismissed it as fake, but one viewer did not. He was a YouTuber who specialized in exposing abandoned mysteries. His growing audience demanded darker content. This was perfect. He believed he could reveal the truth and control the narrative, unlike the explorers whose footage ended in dread. He studied every frame obsessively, mapping the rooms, analyzing shadows that did not match the explorers' movements, and noticing figures appearing in reflections that were not present in the direct view. The house felt alive even through a screen. When he paused the footage, faces sometimes appeared in the static as if staring back at him. Neighbors near the property refused to speak for his documentary. They shut blinds when he walked up their driveways. A mail carrier warned him without looking up that those who ask too many questions are eventually invited inside. That was the only sentence anyone gave him. Still, he believed fear was superstition and superstition was opportunity. He drove to the house on a bright afternoon, expecting daylight would dull its menace. Yet sunlight seemed to dim near the property, swallowed by something unseen. The grass looked burned in patches, forming long hand-like patterns stretching toward the porch. The trees around the backyard leaned awkwardly inward, as if drawn by the house's gravity. He filmed everything with narration planned for later. He wanted pure visuals now, untouched by commentary. The front door hung slightly open, though police reports stated it had been boarded shut. He assumed trespassers or squatters had forced entry, ignoring the fact that the boards lay neatly stacked beside the porch, nails perfectly straight, as if removed patiently rather than pried. Inside, the stale air clung to him. Each step seemed to echo too slowly, as though the sound took time to decide whether it wanted to exist. The wallpaper patterns shifted when he looked away, aligning into distorted faces whenever caught at the edge of his vision. He captured shots of the living room, the staircase, the hallway upstairs. Everything matched the footage he had memorized. He found the diary under the child's bed exactly where the explorers left it. But now the torn pages returned, filled with new handwriting that looked frantic. The newest entry read, "It hears again. More footsteps. It remembers him." The ink dripped, glistening like fresh blood. He placed the diary back without filming it, suddenly unwilling to give the house more attention than necessary. He followed the path of the explorers, though the air grew colder the deeper he ventured. His camera flickered between frames, glitching into darkness that lasted longer each time. In the corner of the child's room, the rocking horse faced him directly, though he swore it had been turned away when he entered. Its painted eyes gleamed with a wet reflection, as if something inside watched eagerly. He left quickly, moving down the hallway, discovering the basement door unlocked. The footage from the explorers showed them entering the basement only after the house rearranged itself. The door's accessibility now felt intentional, a choice the house made. He sensed the building studying him, evaluating his usefulness. The stairs groaned under his weight, each creak like a quiet plea not to continue. The basement air pulsed with rotten warmth and an odd rhythm. His flashlight beam quivered as if pushed by unseen winds. Then he saw it, the soft ground moving beneath the concrete texture, the faint outlines of trapped faces pressing upward in silent terror. He recorded everything, zooming in on fingers that clawed upward only to sink back as though swallowed. A low vibration filled the space, not sound but sensation, crawling beneath his nails and into his bones. He stumbled backward and nearly tripped over a broken dresser. Inside the drawers lay new items, a recent smartphone model, a freshly printed parking receipt, and a hat identical to one he left in his car. Panic spiked. The house was already claiming him. His camera spun, capturing the walls shifting like living tissue, expanding and contracting as though inhaling his fear. The floor rose slightly, welcoming him with forming impressions shaped like arms ready to embrace. He tried to run, but the stairs stretched away, lengthening into a dark corridor that never reached the top. The basement lights flickered on suddenly, though he never saw a switch. The illumination revealed dozens of photographs pinned to the walls. Every image showed people standing on the porch, some in outdated clothing, staring blankly into the lens. The last row of photos displayed the explorers from the footage minutes before entering. Next to them, still pinned into place, was a new photograph of him taken from behind while he filmed the house. He had been documented before he knew he was a subject. His terror finally erupted. He screamed, though his voice died instantly, absorbed by suffocating silence. The house did not permit pleas. His camera recorded his frantic breathing and distorted imagery of stretching walls. The device captured every moment, feeding the house exactly what it craved: attention, witness, memory. He collapsed when the floor pulsed violently beneath him. The concrete peeled apart like skin splitting, revealing darkness filled with gnashing shapes. He scrambled forward blindly, desperate for escape. The stairs reappeared abruptly, as if the house allowed hope only to intensify despair. He climbed with trembling limbs, feeling breath on his ankles, fingers scraping behind him through the wood. He reached the ground floor and sprinted toward the exit. The door slammed shut before he touched it, locks clicking like bones snapping. The windows elongated and shrank, destroying any view of outside. The house sealed itself entirely, trapping him in a labyrinth of shifting hallways. His footage ends with him kneeling in the center of the living room, camera pointed at his own wide, fractured eyes. Behind him, silhouettes rise from the walls, arms stretching outward as mouths yawn open with hunger. His camera falls, giving one final glimpse of the house's interior folding into itself like a living nightmare consuming the last of its prey. No trace of the YouTuber was found. His vehicle remained parked outside, untouched. Each day, a new photograph appears pinned to the wall inside the basement, though no one enters. The house adds victims to its history, building a museum of souls trapped forever in silence. Now, online archives of both sets of footage continue to spread. Those who watch feel observed afterward by shifting shadows and reflections that linger too long. The house has learned to reach viewers from a distance. Every view is a knock on its door. Every shiver is an invitation. It is only a matter of time before someone curious decides to visit, believing horror brings fame. The house will be waiting, listening, remembering footsteps before they ever arrive, eager to welcome more memories into its ever-growing darkness. If you made it this far, remember, stories continue when someone listens. The house knows you now. It recognizes curious minds and wandering eyes. It hears every breath you take in the dark, and it never forgets new names. Subscribe, stay close to the living, and don't ever visit a place whispering to be found.